Simone Fleming. We're here at the Ritz-Carlton, New Orleans, where I am the executive pastry chef. It's the holiday season, so I thought, what's better to make than gingerbread houses? So when making a gingerbread house, the first thing you want to do is have a killer recipe, which I'm going to provide you with today. And if you're under a certain age, you may want to get your mom and dad's permission and maybe a little bit of assistance from them when you're making your gingerbread house. First, we're going to start off with brown sugar. That goes right into the mixer. Next, we've got butter, whole butter. The more fat, the better. Delicious, delicious, delicious. So, we're then going to put our mixer down, lock it into place, and go on the first. So we've got our butter and sugar here on the very lowest setting. The next thing you want to add is going to be your eggs. You want to use whole eggs. You're going to add your eggs very slowly, possibly one at a time. You don't want to add your eggs too fast because then your butter and your sugar will break and then you'll have to start all over. So there go 3 and 4 eggs. Now's a good time to stop the mixer, unlock it, lift it, and scrape down the sides of your bowl. You want to get all the way down to the bottom to make sure that all of the ingredients are mixed very, very well. Here we go again. You can up the speed on your mixture now because the next ingredients that go in will be your molasses. Molasses is really important in gingerbread house making. It's what gives your gingerbread that really rich taste. Most people think it's the ginger, but that's because they're not used to working with molasses outside of the Christmas season, so they don't really know the taste of it. In goes the molasses. Scrape the sides of your bowl again. And start your mixer again. The next ingredient that we're going to put in is going to be gingerbread spice. Gingerbread spice usually includes cloves, cinnamon, nutmeg, and of course, ginger. Can't make gingerbread without ginger. Stop your mixer, pour in your spice. Now is also a good time to add your leavening agent. Leavening agent is what makes your gingerbread actually rise big and tall. So we're going to put in a little bit of baking powder or baking soda, depending on what your recipe calls for. And salt. No baking without salt. Turn your mixer on to a low speed. Stop it. We're going to give it another scrape to make sure that all of our ingredients are fully incorporated. And now for the very last ingredient, flour. Now the flour is where it can get a little messy. So you want to go as slow as you possibly can. The best thing to do is to maybe add the flour in 3 stages. That way, when you turn your mixer on, the flour doesn't fly everywhere. Although sometimes being messy can be a little bit of fun. So we've got our mixer on the very first speed. We'll let that go just a little bit. Turn it up just a smidge and stop it. Now we're going to add another 1/3 of our flour. You'll notice that the more flour you add to the gingerbread mixture, the thicker it gets. And your mixer may not want to turn as easily as it did before. Because gingerbread is so thick, you're giving it quite a workout. So you can up the speed. So let's take a look. Gingerbread is still really wet. So we definitely have to add the rest of our gingerbread flour. It smells delicious already. Okay, this is going to be the last turn. And as you can see, the mixer is working overtime to get it all incorporated. But that'll just help it taste even more delicious. So now that your mixer is pretty much done doing all the work, the rest is going to be work that's done by hand. After your gingerbread is completely mixed, you want to wrap your gingerbread loaf in plastic wrap and chill it for at least 15 minutes. That'll make rolling it out that much easier. Here's an example of a block that's already been chilled. So we're going to take regular all-purpose flour and dust the top of the table really well. That stops the gingerbread from sticking to the table. You want to also dust the top and maybe even your rolling pin. Begin rolling your gingerbread as thin as you can possibly get it. It'll break up a little bit, but that's okay. The gingerbread is so soft that you can actually stick it right back together. So the next thing that you're going to need is going to be a gingerbread house template. You can't just start building a gingerbread house because you have to know exactly how many pieces you need. Like a front door, 2 side walls, a back wall, and 2 pieces for your rooftop. Gotta have a roof. What happens when it rains? Next step, after your gingerbread is completely rolled out to the thickness that you like, you're going to take your gingerbread template. We'll use the front door. Place it down on top of your gingerbread. And remember, kids, before you use a knife, always get your parents to help you. You're going to take a sharp knife and trace the outside of the gingerbread house template. Your next step would be to bake your gingerbread. Put your pieces lying straight on a cookie sheet and bake them at 350 degrees until they're done. So, once you take your gingerbread out of the oven and you've allowed it to cool down, remember, don't take any bites. It's pretty hot. This is what you should end up with. Remember our front with the front door? That's what it looks like baked. Pretty thick, very sturdy. A thick house is a house that doesn't fall down. Our back wall, 2 roofs, and 2 side walls. Sturdy, sturdy, sturdy. So our next step is going to be the glue of the gingerbread house, the royal icing. Royal icing is that icing that gets really hard. It's really delicious, but a little hard on your teeth. But that's okay, because during the Christmas season, you can't build a gingerbread house without it. So inside of our mixing bowl, we have powdered sugar. We're going to turn on the mixer on very low. Putting it on high would cause a huge cloud of smoke, and we don't need that. To the powdered sugar, we want to slowly add our egg whites. Keep your bowl mixing the entire time. And pretty soon you'll see the transformation from regular powdered sugar to a fabulous, sticky, ooey gooey glue for your gingerbread house. You can go a little faster at this point and add the rest of your egg whites. Put it on the highest speed possible and watch the royal icing transform. Now we've got our royal icing in a piping bag with a tip. If you don't have a tip, that's okay. But if you really wanting to do it the professional way, a pastry tip is the way to go. You can go to any Walmart or cake supply store and pick up a set of pastry tips. The first thing we want to do is get our house firmly grounded. Take your royal icing, pipe a line of icing on the back of the front wall of the house, just down the 2 sides. You then want to take one side wall after your house has been planted, just making sure, take a little bit of royal icing and put it underneath each floor. That'll keep it in place. Take your wall and stick it right into the side of the icing. One wall down. The next side, you want to do exactly the same thing. In case you want really good enforcement, take a little bit of icing and run it along the bottom floorboard of your walls. You don't have to do it, but if you're afraid that it's not going to hold up, maybe with the humidity, go ahead and add that extra line of icing. It won't hurt. Add that down to the bottom, just like you did the other side. And don't mind if icing comes along the bottom of your walls, because you're going to decorate that. There'll be tons of candy and all sorts of good things in place to hide all of your mistakes. Now, you want to take your back wall. Go ahead, put a little bit of royal icing down on the floorboard and up the back sides of the wall. This is that fabulous glue that I was telling you about. And see, it's not moving. You want to give yourself a full weekend to complete your gingerbread house. Try not to rush it. If you do, your house may not come out to look the way that you wanted it to. So if you really want to be a stickler for perfectionism, go ahead and clean up the side walls of your house, just like that. Or let it dry just as it is. You want to let this dry overnight before you try and put your rooftop on. Trying to put a rooftop onto a wall that's still wet is going to end up in mass chaos. We now have our gingerbread house with half of a rooftop. The rooftop is the trickiest part of putting a gingerbread house together because the roof is always so much heavier than the walls. So the trick for getting your gingerbread house roof to stay in place is a can. Doesn't have to be this can, but a can. You want to take your can of fruit or vegetables, put it right up against the side of your house. Take your rooftop, more of that delicious glue, but use a good bit of it. This time, you want to go all the way around. You even want to put some glue onto the house itself to make sure that it sticks together. Don't forget the very top of the house. Now for the tricky part. Lining up your rooftop with the rest of your house without it falling apart. If you don't get it right on the first time, don't worry, you can try again. Very carefully stick your gingerbread house together. You want all the seams of sugar to meet up. Now this is where your can comes in place. You want your gingerbread house to rest firmly on your can. That's where it's going to sit all night. Once your gingerbread piece is firmly on the can, press around the house just to make sure that the sugar is touching at all angles. Now, just to be on the safe side, I like to take more icing and actually go around that, just to make sure that I have no mistakes. A rooftop is not something you want to play with. More here. Turn your house around very carefully. Remember, that side rooftop is still very wet. And there you have it. This is an assembled gingerbread house. But you're probably saying, now that I've got this, what do I do next? Now is where the fun really starts. So, you're probably wondering, what can I use to make my gingerbread house look absolutely beautiful? There are tons of ingredients that you could use. Chocolate covered pretzels or regular pretzels, sugar diamonds, chocolate atomic bombs, or even Cheerios. So the first thing that we're going to do is put on some royal icing in a decorative pattern to stick our ingredients to. You can do polka dots, you can do flowers. Here's an example of just a regular polka dot. Find a pattern that you like and stick to it. Or if you're really wild and crazy, get really weird with it and just do crazy lines all over the thing. It's your gingerbread house. It's an expression of you. We're going to take some diamonds here and put them directly onto our polka dots. Maybe get another color to mix in there. Some yellow. Or how about a Mentos? Those work just as well. Maybe on the top of your house, you'd like to do something like a gumdrop. Add more icing just to make sure that they stay in place. And then get creative with it. Even these sugared pieces of grapefruit look and taste delicious. Those could go right on top also. Almost like a chimney. Spice up your gingerbread house with even more color. How about these fabulous grapefruit slices? There are millions of things that you can do to make your gingerbread house look absolutely fantastic. So, get out there, be creative, and show me what you've got.